Calling to order the North Bridgeville City Council meeting. Today is Monday, July 18th, 2022. Please rise for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Father, as we begin our meeting, we ask you to guide us so that we may have the ability to judge what is important, meaningful, and purposeful. We also ask for the gift of understanding and the ability to make good decisions. Thank you for the opportunity to represent the people of North Bridgeville. We ask you to watch over and keep our community safe. We pray in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible. Clerk, please call the roll.
Swank.
Here.
Booth. Here. Havens. Here. Winkle. Here. Haywood.
Here.
DeVries. Here. Jacobs. Here. Mayor.
Here.
Service Director. Here. Law Director. Here. Engineer. Here. Auditor.
Here.
Clerk of Council. Here.
Thank you. Tonight before us, we have the City Council meeting minutes dated July 5th, 2022. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as submitted. Please note, council has also been provided with the safety committee meeting minutes dated May 31st. That brings us to the lobby session, second portion of our meeting. This time I'll be opening the lobby session to allow the general public an opportunity to address city council as well as the administration regarding any matter pertaining to the general affairs of the city. Anybody who wishes to speak will be asked to speak from the podium. You're allowed up to 3 minutes. You ask to begin by stating your name and address for the record. So at this time, the lobby session is open. First, I have a sign here from Mike Taylor. Would you like to approach the podium? Sure. And again, just for the record, if you could please state your name and your address as well, and then your 3 minutes will begin at that time.
My name's Mike Taylor. The address is 4913 Winnenagle. Been a resident in North Bridgeville for about 48, 49 years now. Yeah. Good evening, Council. Good evening. My concerns and what brings me up here tonight is that we put a light on Mills and Winnenagle here 4 or 5 years ago. And since we put that light up, we've had numerous accidents. Again, last night a major accident occurred, and I don't know if anybody was hurt, but my concern is that my wife also was hit and rear-ended here a year ago in front of her house because of someone speeding through the light to make the light and pushed her probably 20 or 30 foot away from where she was at. Luckily, she wasn't hurt. She had her seatbelt on, but who knows what might happen the next time a bad accident occurs on that light. I've talked to Jeff Armbruster probably a year ago, and we were informed that a roundabout might be taking place on that corner, and Avon was in charge of it. And a year ago, and still nothing to date has occurred. I would hope that we could either go back to a four-way stop or possibly get that roundabout taken care of. Especially my family. That's my concerns. Thanks.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Taylor. Anybody else would like to please start by stating your name and address?
My name is Kendra Castillo, and I live at 5699 Creekside Lane in New Creek South. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to address everybody in the room about the issue that I find very important yet distressing, and that is the issue of fireworks. I live in a residential area, and for the most part, I think, folks are pretty good about the aerial display fireworks. They're very dangerous in a residential area. I live next door to a senior citizen. She's well into her 90s, and she's very mobility limited. And she calls me every 4th of July, scared to death, because all of the embers and the junk land on our roofs and in our yards, and she's afraid she's going to burn to death. I have the same fear, you know, that this stuff is dangerous. Actually, not this year, but last year, I stand out in my backyard and a big, whatever they are, a big piece of clay from one of the displays hit me in the head, literally broke the skin on my head. It's primarily a neighbor, you know, 2 doors down. I don't believe he is shooting off. I think it's commercial, professional stuff. It's very large, it's very dangerous. Now, listen, if somebody wants to make the boom booms and the M80s and the firecrackers, if they want to blow their faces and hands off, let them. Couldn't care less. It's an annoyance, but who cares? I have a concern about living in a residential area where, you know, things that are on fire are falling on my roof. So I just wanted to be clear about that. And I think it's a danger. It has no place in residential areas. And I know some of our surrounding cities have banned them, for, you know, because I believe that the ordinance for the state of Ohio says it's up to, you know, municipalities. I think it's how it's phrased. So I'm here to say, let's get rid of them. If you want to limit them to the boom booms and the bang bangs, I don't care. But the aerial displays and, you know, scaring the elderly to death that they're going to burn in their homes, and, you know, actually me on my property suffering an injury from this nonsense, I thought was kind of crazy. So thank you for the time, and I hope we can get rid of it.
Thank you for being here, for sharing your concerns as well.
My name is Jan Sakis. I live at 5708 Creekside Lane in Mills Creek, and I share the same concerns that Kendra has. I, this last 4th of July, was visiting the elderly lady that she was speaking of. And I went out in her backyard, and because of the neighbor 3 doors away from her, all the embers were coming on, you know, this elderly neighbor's patio. Some of them flew on her roof as well. And I know our houses are probably about 21 feet spaced apart. I know my particular lot is about 180 feet, but it's only about 90 feet from the back of my house to where people, if they wanted to shoot off fireworks, they could. And I just don't feel that's adequate space to be shooting off commercial fireworks like she was speaking of. So if there was legislation to, you're not going to ban it, but if there's legislation to set certain parameters on how many feet it needs to be, that would be greatly appreciated. I don't want to see somebody's house or somebody's house catching fire or somebody injured because of fireworks. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else who wishes to address council or the administration? Please state your name and address.
My name is Linda Jackson. I live at 5622 Carolyn Drive. It's 20 acres off of the one here again, with a lot of problems. There's 2 houses down below, and was let them fall, and they were shooting them at the cul-de-sac where I live. Like she said, the embers and pieces of the fireworks landed on the house, the car, the driveway, and in the yard. And I don't think there's any sense in that for the simple reason behind your homes were adjacent to the tech school, but there's a whole building in the back of our house. So they've had plenty of place to shoot off the fireworks. But after a while, I went up halfway to this person's house, and I said, you know, please, if you won't let them off, let them field it all open. And I said, you won't have that debris. So I turned around and left. She told me, so I understand. There was 4 more let off after I went back to my house. So I turned around and the phone opened, and the kids are starting on. She's calling the police. She's calling the police. So they got all of their items and went in the back and finished the fireworks. So that's one problem I think that, not only that street where I was at, but there was all kinds of fireworks the whole weekend, which I thought was really too much, too abundant. And the second thing I have is on the street of Carolyn, I have never seen so many holes in your road. And there's also a chunk of concrete missing when you turn off of Vera Nagle onto, in that area. So that's two things I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you for evening. Anybody else would like to address the council?
Guys, my name is Dave Dorflinger, 6028 Beach Drive. Dan Rodriguez, you're the streetlight guy. Is that who I? Right? No? Alright. So my only question is why, is there a reason why the streetlights don't blink after a certain time? I come home at all times. I mean, I sit at a red light at midnight, and then I set a red light at midnight, and I set a red light at midnight, and then I set a red light at midnight, and then I set a red light at midnight, and then I turn. So I don't know if there's a reason for that, or is it something that you look into?
What street?
Oh, what's rich? I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but
Yeah.
I think they could blink, right?
Only change if there's cross traffic.
They said there's no traffic at all, everything's closed at 8:30 at night, so. It's not that red lights, it's not that red lights, it's not that red lights, it's not that red lights. Yeah, you can't do much about other things, I mean, there's Sunday drivers out on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, waiting for a golden ray of sunshine to make a space for them to turn, But that was my only concern, the lights, when they can blink. There's a reason for not blinking. I guess that's so. But
Anybody else would like to address council? Just a reminder, you start by stating your name and address.
My name is Pat Newman, with 5605 Carolyn Drive. My concerns was also about the fireworks. Coming down on our houses and our driveways. I left one night because I couldn't take it no more. The other thing is the streets, how bad they are. I've been there since 1979. And those streets haven't been as bad as they are right now. You have to go around the holes. I'm concerned about that, when they were gonna fix those. And the other thing that I don't know if the city has responsibility or the schools does. My backyard faces their north school. And they put in the new sewers. There's still holes, and I know it's settling, but there's still holes back there. You know, kids would fall in and whatnot. But when they did the drainage, my fence, I mean, there's holes. It's like, when you pull something off, they got all these holes all along that fence. And I'm sure it goes down the line to my neighbor's house who lives up here. But I was wondering who was going to fix that. I know at one time they told me I put dirt up along my fence because my backyard started holding all this water. My son got out there. He said, "Look, Mom, he took a canoe. He could ride in that canoe. The water was holding." And it wasn't because of my dirt. It was how the fence, whatever, the dirt was there. But I dig holes to let the water go down into the drain for the school. But right now it's nice since they put the drainage in. But their dirt is up.
and all my land is down here. And not that, the only other thing was my neighbor, he put a barn in, but he put dirt up and it's above my land. So all that water comes in from my land. I don't know, I never complained about that. I mean, it's a neighbor, but I do have a concern about the fence, because when I go to edge the fence line, the cord, it gets caught in the fence, and I've got hurt a couple times by doing that. So I went out there and I sprayed it this time. A lot of times I've gone over there and I cut their side down. I called the schools, I says, I can't do it, I'm too old to get over there and do their side too. They haven't done anything about that either right now. Whose responsibility that is. That's my concerns.
Thank you for being here. Anybody else would like to address the council or the administration? None. Closed. We will move on to reports. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. On tonight's agenda, there's several different ordinances that'll be asked to have the emergency clause added. There's so many, I will not go through it, but I think altogether, most of them are in second readings. There is one first reading, the T-116 to do the Ferris Road realignment project, which we've talked about several different times over the last couple of years. Other than that, the other items are the legislation that needs to go to the Board of Elections. So those will be discussed as we get to them. Our street department's doing a great job with paving. Once again this year, they're going to add the top coat to the section of Root Road that has been paved. That will wrap up that section, and then they're going over to Harris Drive. It is tentatively scheduled to begin on July 28th. Find our schedule of roads and streets that are going to be worked on our city's website at enridgeville.org. Tomorrow morning at 8:30 here in council chambers, there'll be another coffee and conversation if you're interested in having an informal conversation about the goings on in the city. And summer concert series comes back to South Central Park's gazebo on Sunday, July 24th, 6 to 8 p.m. It is the sounds of Rubik's Cubed, which is an 80s band. So that'll be a good time for everybody. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Safety Service Director.
No report received.
Okay. Mr. Engineer.
Thank you, Council President. So I have a couple things. Our 2022 pavement marking project came back over our estimate, but within the awarding limits. So we'll be looking to award that soon. Our Cypress Avenue Extension project, the city has obtained one of two property owners' signatures that we need for the right-of-way plat. So we'll be working to collect that second signature shortly, and then that project can be go out to bid and hopefully be performed later on this year. Lorraine Road Water Main Extension, that project is continuing. All the water main is in and all the service laterals have been installed. This week, the water line is under testing for bacteria and other pressure tests that need to be taking place. And once that testing is complete, all the service laterals can be reinstated by the contractor. So hopefully that gets started next week, and we'll be moving right along with that. Center Ridge Road, all of the sanitary sewer and our sanitary sewer laterals have been installed. Road repair trenches for the trenches has been performed on the crossings. Some of those will need to be revisited for a drive-through that we did last week. And the contractor is aware of those areas, and we're going to be fixing some of those, but also prepping the entire stretch from Barton to Westlake border for its pavement. If you've driven through there, you've seen it, some of it's already dug out. So that's going to take place actually this week. So a lot of that stuff will be wrapped up this week and will be on the road to completion there. I'm sure everybody will be happy about that. Yeah, so with that, we're going to be closing North Barton at the intersection of Central Ridge on Thursday. And then the contractor is going to turn around and do some more paving on Friday, which will have the south side of the intersection closed. Center Ridge will remain open at all times. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Ms. Auditor?
Thank you, Council President. Before council tonight is T-117, a resolution authorizing the execution of vendor now certificates, as well as T-118, which is the city's 2023 tax budget. One of the main purposes of the tax budget is to justify the continued collection of the authorized property tax levies and for participation in the distribution of the local government funds through the state of Ohio and Lorraine County. Beyond that, this estimate is used to generate our certificate of estimated resources, which places a limit on the expenses that we budget during our appropriation process. The revenue estimates can be amended from time to time as new information regarding anticipated revenue becomes available. This tax budget starts the annual budget process and is followed by the appropriation process, which will begin in fall of 2022. I would like to ask council to consider passing both of these pieces of legislation tonight with the emergency clause to allow the auditor's office the necessary resources to be available for expenditure, and also to allow for timely filing of the 2023 tax budget with the Lorraine County Auditor. I appreciate your consideration, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Auditor. Please note that the auditor has also provided council with the June 2020 financial report. We are in receipt of the June 2022 fire department report, the June 2022 building department report, as well as the June 2022 water plant distribution. We also have a council committee report.
A motion to get the one perfect draft legislation.
President, yes. The motion was made by Winkle and seconded by Swain to accept the statement committee report dated July 11th. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Report has been accepted. Correspondence this evening, we received a request from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control. Those that please read that request.
New liquor permit request. A request from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control for a new permit request for HR Holdings LLC. Yeah. 47.
President,
Yes, Mrs. Swain.
who did that request? That's the state and final.
Second.
Motion was made by Swank and seconded by Avens to not request a hearing so that this permit can be sent to the state for final disposition. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. We'll bring it to yes, Mr. Booth. Motion was made by Booth and seconded by Winkle to dispense with recess this evening. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. We will dispense with recess, move on to first reading. Clerk, please read T-115.
T-115-2022, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the law and prescribed by law. Ridge Road, Mills Road, Avalon Drive roundabout. $1,457,500.
116.
T-116-. Ordinance authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids. And enter into a contract for the manner prescribed by law for the lowest estimate for the Paris Road realignment project and other purchases President,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
move to dispense with the second and third readings for T117.
Moved by the mayor, second by Booth. Dispense with the second and third reading.
President, we've been talking about this project for a while.
Again, motion is made by the mayor, second by Booth. Dispense with the second and third reading. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. By Booth and seconded by Swain to add the emergency clause to T116 for the reasons stated by Mr. Booth. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by Booth and seconded by Swain to adopt T116 with the emergency clause in place. Are there any comments or questions at this time? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swain?
Yes.
Booth? Yes. Havens?
Yes.
Winkle?
Yes.
Haywick?
Yes.
DeVries?
Yes.
Jacobs?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously and becomes ordinance number 5967-2020.
T117.
T117-2022, a resolution to authorize the execution of then and now certificates by the fiscal officer and the payment of amounts due for various purchase orders.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Bruce.
I make a motion to dispense with the second and third readings.
Second.
Moved by Bruce and seconded by DeVries to dispense with the second and third readings for T117. Any comments or questions at this time? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, I make a motion to add the emergency to allow the auditor's office the necessary resources.
It was moved by Bruce and seconded by DeVries to add the emergency clause of T117 to allow the auditor's office purchase. On that emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by Bruce and seconded by DeVries to adopt T117 with the emergency clause in place. This time, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swain?
Yes.
Booth?
Yes.
Havens?
Yes.
Winkle?
Yes.
Haywick?
Yes.
DeVries?
Yes.
Jacobs?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously and becomes resolution number 1572-2022.
T118.
118-2022, an ordinance adopting and approving the tax budget of the city of North Ridgeville, Ohio for the year beginning January 1st, 2023, and submitting the same to Lorraine County Auditor.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. DeVries.
move to dispense with second and third reading.
Second.
You know, I think we may have to have an amendment to this before we move forward. I noticed in the first whereas statement, it references January 1st, 2022. I believe that should be 2023. Says the city auditor has compiled a tax budget for the city of North Ridgeville, Ohio for the year beginning January 1st, 2022. Attached to the exhibit.
Yes, Mr. President.
So I'll make a motion to amend T118 to correct the typo. Change that date from January 1st of 22 to January 1st of 23.
Second.
It's moved by Jacobs and seconded by Bruce to amend T118 as I stated. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. Before I made that motion, it was moved by DeVries and seconded by Bruce to dispense with the second and third readings for T118. Are there any comments or questions regarding that? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. DeVries.
motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, Motion to add the emergency clause, the reason stated by the auditor to be able to file with the county on time. Second.
It was moved by DeVries, seconded by Boost to add the emergency clause to T-118 amended for the reasons stated by Mr. DeVries. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by DeVries and seconded by Boost to adopt T-118 amended with that emergency clause in place. Do you have any comments or questions?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. DeVries.
I'd like to say special thanks to Auditor April, who does a fantastic job keeping this straight for finances, not only in the budget process, but going through audits. I know it's a hair-raising experience, but you've done a fantastic job, so thank you.
I second that. Thank you for your work. Are there any other comments or questions? Hearing none, first please call the roll.
Yes.
Booth? Yes. Stevens?
Yes.
Winkle?
Yes.
Haywood?
Yes.
DeVries?
Yes.
Jacobs?
Yes.
Amendment T-118 becomes, motion carried unanimously, becomes ordinance number 5968.
Moving on to second readings, clerk please read T-98.
98-2022, an ordinance amending chapter 12 and planning commission of the North Ridgeville zoning code.
T-99.
99-2022, an ordinance amending chapter 1242, administration, enforcement, and penalty of North Ridgeville zoning code.
T-100.
T-100-2022, an ordinance creating a new chapter 1243, permits and development review of the North Ridgeville zoning code.
T-101.
T-101-2022, an ordinance amending chapter 1244, Board of Zoning and Building Appeals of the North Ridgeville zoning code.
T-102.
T-102-2022, an ordinance amending chapter 1246, amendments of the North Ridgeville zoning code.
T-103.
T-103-2022, an ordinance creating a new chapter 1247, conditional uses of the North Ridgeville zoning code.
T-104.
T-104-2022, an ordinance repealing sections 1444.10.120.25G and .25H of the Building and Housing Code and establishing a new fee schedule for various zoning-related applications and reviews.
T-105.
T-105-2022, an ordinance amending sections 878.01.03 and .04 of the codified ordinances of the city of North Ridgeville, Ohio, provide for the levy of an additional 0.2% income tax beginning January 1st, 2023, to provide funds to pay the cost of acquiring, constructing, operating, maintaining, and otherwise improving the permanent improvements in their sites, including recreational facilities, as part of a cooperative project with the North Ridgeville City School District, paying debt charges on securities and other obligations of the cities related thereto.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
move to table this ordinance until December 5th, 2022.
Second.
It was moved by the mayor, seconded by Swank, to table T-105 until December 5th, 2022 for consideration at that time. Are there any comments or questions?
Mr. President, the reason for delaying it until that point in time would be to find out the results of the election in November. This ordinance wouldn't go into effect unless the residents passed this issue with the majority. The election results have to be certified, so despite election day occurring earlier in November, it takes us several weeks for the results to be certified by the Board of Elections. That would put the next meeting after that certification, the December 5th timeframe. So at that point, we'll know the results of the election and we can either move forward with this ordinance or remove it from the agenda at that time.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any other comments or questions? Again, it was moved by the mayor and seconded by Swank to table T105 until December 5th, 2022. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no. T105 has been tabled. T106.
206-2022, resolution declaring the necessity of an election on the question of approving the passage of an ordinance to amend sections 878.01, 803, 804 of the codified ordinances of the city of North Ridgeville, Ohio, in order to provide for the levy of an additional 0.2% income tax beginning January 1st, 2023, to provide funds to pay for the costs of acquiring, constructing, operating, maintaining, and otherwise improving permanent improvements in their sites, including recreational facilities, as part of a cooperative project with the North Ridgeville City School District, and paying debt charges on securities and other obligations from the city related thereto.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
move to dispense with the third reading for T106.
Second.
It was moved by the mayor, seconded by Awig to dispense with the third reading for T106. Any comments?
Mr. President, this resolution would allow this issue to appear on the ballot in November. At this time, I'll next be asking for a motion to pass this with the emergency, so that way we can get it through the Board of Elections and the Ohio Secretary of State with the language that would appear on the ballot in time for that election. That deadline to submit is August 10th. Should the Secretary of State have a problem with the language, we would still have a meeting in early August to allow us to make any changes should there be a need to. But essentially, from this point till the end of the meeting, T106 all the way through T114, that is the same explanation for all of these ordinances, that we're asking to pass these with the emergency clause so that way they can make it through that process and appear on the ballot in November.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are there any other comments or questions?
Does that need a second?
There was, we had a second. The motion was made by the mayor and seconded by Awig to dispense with the third reading for T106. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, move to add the emergency clause for the reasons I stated just a few seconds ago.
Second.
I think we have to read a specific, don't we have to have a specific reason for the emergency for this particular legislation?
Squires does have some specific language. I do not have that in front of me.
Mrs. Awig has it.
I move to adopt it with emergency clause for the immediate preservation of the public safety and welfare of the city, and for the future reason that this resolution must be effective at once in order to place this question on the ballot at an election on November 8th, 2022.
Wait here a second.
Second.
It was moved by Awig, seconded by Swank to add the emergency clause to T106 for the reasons stated by Mrs. Awig. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was moved by the mayor and seconded by Awig to adopt T106 with that emergency clause in place. At this time, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swank,
Yes.
Booth,
Yes.
Havens,
Yes.
Winkle,
Yes.
Awig,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Jacob.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Resolution number 1573-2022.
T107.
T107-2022, an ordinance authorizing and directing the submission to the electors of a proposal to amend Article 4, the auditor of the city charter, effectively merging both the auditing department and the treasurer's department of the city of North Ridgeville, Ohio.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
move to dispense with the third reading.
Second.
It's moved by the mayor and seconded by Avens to dispense with the third reading for T-107. Comments or questions?
Mr. President, T-107 through T-114 came about as a result of the Charter Review Committee that we convened, which had 9 members of the community reviewing each and every section of the charter and making suggested changes to that charter. There was input from residents, from employees, and from the committee themselves. And these 8 charter amendments are asked by them to be put to the voters for their decision as to whether the charter should change. This is an important decision because the charter is essentially our constitution and it controls the operations of the city. But from time to time, the city does convene these committees and there are suggested changes pretty much each and every time. No document is perfect. Ours is not perfect as well, but they tried to make it as perfect as it could be.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, the motion was made by the mayor and seconded by Avens to dispense with the third reading for T-107. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
Mr. President, move to adopt. Second. President, move to add the emergency clause. Second. And that reason is to make it through the process that I explained earlier, so that way it can appear on the ballot in November.
It was moved by the mayor and seconded by Avens to add the emergency clause to T-107 in order for the issue to be placed on the November ballot. That emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by the mayor and seconded by Avens to adopt T-107 with the emergency clause in place. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swank,
Yes.
Luce,
Yes.
Avens,
Yes.
Winkle,
Yes.
Haywick,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. It becomes ordinance number 5969-2022.
T-108.
T-108-2022, an ordinance authorizing and directing the submission to the electors of a proposal to amend Article 9, Section 9.7, mandatory referral of rezoning to electors of the City of North Ridgeville Charter, eliminating an obsolete formula and maintaining a mandatory submission to the electorate of any rezoning of parcels in multiple family residence districts.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. DeVries.
motion to dispense with third reading.
Second.
It's moved by DeVries and seconded by Aywick to dispense with the third reading for T-108. Are there any comments? Hearing none. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr.
motion
DeVries.
to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, motion to add the emergency clause for the reasons stated earlier by the mayor.
Second.
It was moved by DeVries and seconded by Aywick to add the emergency clause to T-108 for the reasons stated earlier by the mayor. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by DeVries and seconded by Aywick to adopt T-108 with the emergency clause in place. Are there any comments or questions at this time? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swank,
Yes.
Luce,
Yes.
Avens,
Yes.
Winkle,
Yes.
Haywick,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. It becomes ordinance number 5970-2022.
T-109.
T-109-2022, an ordinance authorizing and directing the submission of to the electors of a proposal to add a new section 3.18, sale or lease of municipal real estate to Article 3, Council of the Charter of the City of North Ridgeville, Ohio, to allow council to establish ordinances governing the sale, lease, or disposal of municipally owned real estate.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. DeVries.
motion to dispense with third reading.
Second.
It was moved by DeVries and seconded by Swank to dispense with the third reading for T-109. Are there any comments? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Degrees.
motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion to add the emergency clause, again, for the reasons stated earlier by the mayor.
Second.
We've moved by Degrees and seconded by Swing to add the emergency clause to T109 for the reasons stated earlier by the mayor. On that emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by Degrees and seconded by Swing to adopt T109 with the emergency clause in place. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swing,
Yes.
Booth,
Yes.
Havens,
Yes.
Winkle,
Yes.
Haywick,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously and becomes ordinance number 5971-2022.
T110.
110-2022, an ordinance authorizing and directing the submission to the electors of a proposal to amend Article 3, Section 3.8, Clerk of Council of the City of North Ridgeville Charter prohibiting the Clerk of Council from serving as auditor and providing for a chain of command for that office.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Wing.
Move to dispense with third reading.
Motion. The motion was made by Winkle and seconded by Haywick to dispense with the third reading for T110. Are there any comments? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
Mr. President, move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, move the add emergency clause to be stated by the mayor.
Second.
It was moved by Winkle and seconded by Haywick to add the emergency clause to T110 for the reasons stated earlier by the mayor. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by Winkle and seconded by Haywick to adopt T110 with the emergency clause in place. At this time, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swing,
Yes.
Booth,
Yes.
Havens,
Yes.
Winkle,
Yes.
Haywick,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously and becomes ordinance number 5972-2022.
T111.
T111-2022, an ordinance authorizing and directing the submission to the electors of a proposal to amend Article 10, Section 10.3, classification of service to comply with state law.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Booth.
make a motion to dispense with third reading.
Second.
Moved by Booth and seconded by Winkle to dispense with the third reading for T111. Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no.
Mr. President, make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, make a motion to add the emergency for the reasons given earlier by the mayor.
Second.
It was moved by Booth and seconded by Winkle to add the emergency clause to T111 for the same reasons stated earlier by the mayor. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by Booth and seconded by Winkle to adopt T111 with the emergency clause in place. At this time, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swing,
Yes.
Booth,
Yes.
Havens,
Yes.
Winkle,
Yes.
Haywick,
Yes.
DeVries,
Yes.
Jacobs.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously and becomes ordinance number 5973-20.
T112.
T112-2022, an ordinance authorizing and directing the submission to the electors of a proposal to amend Article 3, Section 3.5C, President of Council, to allow appointed members of council to be elected President of Council.
Mr. President. move
Yes.
To dispense with third reading.
Second.
It was moved by Winkle and seconded by Haywick to dispense with the third reading for T112. Are there any comments? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
Mr. President, move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, move the emergency clause for reasons stated by the mayor to meet the deadline.
Second.
It was moved by Winkle and seconded by Haywick to add the emergency clause to T112 for the reasons stated earlier by the mayor. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by Winkle and seconded by Aywick to adopt T-112 with the emergency clause in place. At this time, are there any comments or questions?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. DeVries.
I'm going to support this just because it's put together by a charter review committee. They've done a lot of work and due diligence. I know it's easy given for Tuesdays and Thursdays nights to sit in the room and go over resolutions and ordinances. The mayor served as president for, I believe, 10 years. I was president for a while and now you are. It's a very involved job. There's a lot of complications to it. And the way this is stated basically says that somebody who's appointed could be the president of council. I disagree with that. However, I'm willing to put that in the hands of our voters. So let's put it on the ballot. But I do believe in my heart that somebody who was elected by the community should be the president if they're going to lead other members of council. But this evening, I will support it and get it on the ballot so the public can vote and give their opinion. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeVries. Are there any other comments or questions?
I would just like to second what Marty said, Mr. DeVries said about, people who elect us should lead us, people who are appointed.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swink,
Yes.
Bruce? Yes. Davis?
Yes.
Winkle?
Yes.
Haywood?
Yes.
DeVries? Yes. Jacobs?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Becomes ordinance number 5974-2022.
T-113.
T-113-2022, an ordinance authorizing and directing the submission to the electors of a proposal to amend Article 3, Section 3.16, publication to maintain electronic media as a form of publication and eliminate the use of the lobby bulletin.
Mr. President, move to dispense with third reading.
Second.
It was moved by Winkle and seconded by Aywick to dispense with the third reading for T-113. Are there any comments? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
Mr. President, move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, move the advertency clause for the reasons stated by the mayor.
Second.
It was moved by Winkle and seconded by Aywick to add the emergency clause to T-113 for the reasons stated earlier in the meeting by the mayor. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by Winkle and seconded by Aywick to adopt T-113 with the emergency clause in place. At this time, are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swink,
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Havens?
Yes.
Winkle?
Yes.
Haywood?
Yes.
DeVries?
Yes.
Jacobs?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously and becomes ordinance number 5975-2022.
T-114.
T-114-2022, an ordinance authorizing and directing the submission to the electors of a proposal to amend Article 9, Section 9.1, enactment of zoning and building ordinances to maintain electronic media as a form of publication and eliminate the use of the lobby bulletin.
Mr. President, move to dispense with the third reading.
Second.
Been moved by Winkle, seconded by Aywick to dispense with the third reading for T-114. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no.
Mr. President, move to adopt.
Second.
Mr. President, move to the advertency clause for the reasons stated by the mayor for midnight.
Second.
Motion was made by Winkle and seconded by Aywick to add the emergency clause to T-114 for the reasons stated earlier by the mayor. On the emergency clause alone, all in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. It was then moved by Winkle and seconded by Aywick to adopt T-114 with the emergency clause in place. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Swink,
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
Havens?
Yes.
Winkle?
Yes.
Haywood?
Yes.
DeVries?
Yes.
Jacobs?
Yeah.
Motion carries unanimously and becomes ordinance number 5976-2022.
There are no third readings this evening. For meeting announcements, a public hearing will be held on Monday, August 1st, 2022 at 6:30 PM here in City Council chambers to discuss zoning code changes. Immediately following that meeting will be the next regular council meeting, also here in council chambers. Again, that date is August 1st, 2022 The council meeting will begin promptly at 7 p.m. At this time, do any of the council members or administration have any final comments or questions this evening? Yes, Mr. Bruce?
Yeah, I'd just like to publicly thank the members of the Charter Review Committee. It's, as the mayor indicated, it's a very important piece of business. We had individuals from all walks of life from our community to spend a lot of time reviewing not only our current charter, but trying to come up with ways to make it better. And it's an arduous task. There's a lot of discussion. I was fortunate to be in attendance at most of the meetings. And I can tell you that each one of them really had a passion for it and made sure that the residents of our community were well represented. Everything they came up with, I'm not in total agreement with, but as stated earlier, I believe it's best to put it up to the electors to make those decisions for our charter. And again, just want to thank them because they put a lot of time into it, and we certainly do appreciate all of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruce. Are there any other comments or questions before we end this evening? All right, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.